Walk through your garden in late August, and it's easy to feel like the season is beginning to wind down. Maybe the cucumber vines aren't producing as much anymore. The tomato plants look a little tired. A few empty spaces have started to appear where spring lettuce or early radishes once grew. For many gardeners, those empty beds feel like a sign that it's time to clean up and wait for next spring. But that's not what experienced gardeners see. They see warm soil. They see cooler nights on the horizon. Most importantly, they see one more opportunity to grow some of the best vegetables of the entire year. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. Many cool season vegetables don't just survive when planted in August, they actually perform better. The changing weather helps them grow more slowly, develop better texture, and in many cases, become noticeably sweeter than crops harvested in the heat of summer. So before you put away your trowel or store those extra seed packets for another year, let me show you why August might be the most underrated month in the gardening calendar. Today, we're counting down 15 fast-growing vegetables you can still plant in August for a fresh, productive fall harvest. Some will be ready in as little as 4 weeks. Others will keep producing long after your summer crops have faded away. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which vegetables deserve those empty spots in your garden, and you might even find yourself looking forward to fall gardening more than spring. Let's get started. August isn't the end of the garden. One of the biggest misconceptions about gardening is that it has a finish line. People think you plant in spring, harvest through summer, and then call it a year. Nature has a different plan. Every season offers its own opportunities. And late summer is where one growing season quietly hands the baton to the next. The secret lies beneath your feet. After months of sunshine, the soil is warm, sometimes warmer than it was in early spring. That warmth helps seeds germinate quickly and gives young plants an excellent start. At the same time, the days gradually become shorter, and nights begin cooling down. For many vegetables, that's the perfect combination. Leafy greens stay tender instead of turning bitter. Root crops grow more evenly. And vegetables that struggled in July often thrive in September. There's another benefit that doesn't get talked about enough. As summer begins to fade, many common garden pests become less active. While you'll never have a completely pest-free garden, late-season crops often face less pressure than they would just a month earlier. Experienced gardeners understand something that beginners often discover only after a few seasons. A productive garden isn't about planting everything as early as possible. It's about making the most of every season nature gives you. Those empty spaces in your raised beds aren't a reminder that gardening is ending. They're an invitation to start again. And we'll begin with a vegetable that rewards patience almost immediately. Shu. Radishes, the fastest reward in the garden. If there were an award for the quickest confidence boost a gardener could receive, radishes would win it every time. Plant the seeds today. Keep the soil evenly moist. And in as little as 25 to 35 days, you'll be harvesting crisp, colorful roots that seem to appear almost overnight. That's one reason experienced gardeners love squeezing a few rows of radishes into August. During the hottest weeks of summer, radishes often rush through their growing cycle. Instead of producing smooth, juicy roots, they become woody, overly spicy, or hollow in the center. But once temperatures begin easing, the story changes. The roots stay firmer, the flavor becomes milder, and every harvest feels noticeably fresher. Radishes aren't demanding, but they do appreciate a little preparation. Loosen the soil before planting so the roots can expand easily beneath the surface. Remove stones, break apart hard clumps, and water consistently while the plants are developing. One of the most common beginner mistakes is planting too densely It feels strange to remove healthy seedlings, but thinning them early gives every remaining plant the space it needs to grow into a full-sized radish instead of a tiny root. Here's a trick you'll often see experienced gardeners use. Instead of planting one large patch, sow a short row every 7 to 10 days. By the time you've harvested one row, another is already well on its way. It's a simple habit that turns a single harvest into weeks of fresh radishes. Imagine walking into your garden on a cool September morning, brushing away a few leaves, and pulling a bright red radish from the soil while it's still cool with morning dew. Sometimes the fastest harvest is also the most satisfying. While radishes grow beneath the soil, the next vegetable fills your harvest basket from above, and it does it just as quickly. Chard. Arugula, small leaves with big flavor. Some vegetables quietly play a supporting role in the kitchen. Arugula never has. Its bold, peppery flavor can completely change a salad, brighten a sandwich, or add fresh character to homemade pizza with just a handful of leaves. The best part? You won't be waiting long. Many varieties are ready to harvest in 30 to 40 days. And you can begin picking baby leaves even sooner. August happens to be one of the best times to grow it. When arugula faces the intense heat of midsummer, it often bolts before producing many usable leaves. The flavor becomes stronger. The stems stretch upward, and the harvest ends almost before it begins. Cooler weather slows everything down in the best possible way. The leaves stay tender. The flavor becomes more balanced, and the plant focuses its energy where you want it, in fresh new growth. Harvesting arugula is wonderfully simple. Instead of removing the entire plant, snip the outer leaves and leave the center untouched. Within days, new leaves begin replacing the old ones, allowing you to harvest from the same plant again and again. It's one of those vegetables that quietly rewards consistency. Water regularly, especially during dry stretches. And give the plants a little afternoon shade if your August afternoons are still especially hot. Even a single container on a sunny patio can produce enough arugula for weeks of fresh meals. Great gardens aren't always remembered for their biggest harvests. Sometimes they're remembered for the little moments walking outside just before dinner, gathering a handful of fresh greens, and knowing they couldn't possibly be any fresher. If arugula brings bold flavor to the table, the next vegetable brings something every home gardener appreciates: a steady supply of crisp, tender leaves that can turn an ordinary meal into a garden-fresh salad. Chard. Leaf lettuce, fresh salads, without the summer struggle. Ask most people when to grow lettuce, and they'll probably answer spring. They're only half right. Some of the best lettuce you'll ever grow begins with seeds planted in August. By late summer, the soil is still warm enough for quick germination. But the cooling nights help prevent one of lettuce's biggest enemies, bolting. Instead of rushing to produce flowers, the plants focus on what gardeners actually want: lush, tender leaves. Loose leaf varieties are especially rewarding because they don't ask you to wait for a perfect head to form. In about 30 to 45 days, you'll already be harvesting fresh leaves. And the more thoughtfully you harvest, the longer the plant keeps producing. Rather than cutting the entire plant, remove the outer leaves first and let the center continue growing. It's called the cut and come again method. And once you try it, you'll wonder why you ever harvested lettuce any other way. Keep the soil evenly moist, especially during the first few weeks, and consider adding a light layer of mulch to help retain moisture while the lingering summer heat gradually fades. If your afternoons are still exceptionally warm, a little shade after midday can make all the difference. There's something deeply satisfying about stepping outside just before lunch, picking exactly the amount of lettuce you need, and bringing it straight to the table. No plastic container. No grocery store. Just fresh leaves, harvested minutes before they're eaten. Our next vegetable has a quiet superpower. It doesn't simply tolerate cooler weather, it actually becomes sweeter because of it. Chard. Spinach, a harvest that gets better with cooler nights. Spinach has never been in a hurry. It prefers steady growth, cool mornings, and the kind of weather that arrives just as summer begins to loosen its grip. That's exactly why August planting makes so much sense. Warm soil helps the seeds germinate quickly, while cooler air encourages the plants to produce thick, tender leaves instead of rushing toward flowers. Many varieties are ready for baby greens in 30 to 40 days, with full-sized leaves following soon after. But here's what makes fall spinach so special. After a few chilly nights, the plants begin storing more natural sugars as a way of protecting themselves from the cold. The result is a sweeter, milder flavor that many gardeners actually prefer over spring-grown spinach. Give spinach fertile, well-drained soil enriched with compost, and keep it consistently moist while the seedlings become established. Once the plants are growing well, harvest only the larger outer leaves. Leave the center untouched, and it will continue producing fresh growth for weeks. Patience pays off with spinach. The longer the season gently cools, the better your harvest often becomes. It's a quiet reminder that in gardening, as in life, some of the finest rewards don't come from rushing. They come from growing at exactly the right pace. We've only just begun. And already you've seen that some of the fastest and most rewarding vegetables of the year don't belong to spring at all. But the next group of vegetables brings something different. They're tougher, even more productive. And several of them can continue filling your harvest basket well after the first cool mornings of fall begin to arrive. Let's keep planting. So far, we've looked at vegetables that reward you almost immediately, but now we're moving into a different group of crops. These are the dependable workhorses of the fall garden, the vegetables that quietly keep growing while summer fades into autumn. They're easy to care for, remarkably productive, and in many cases, they'll make you wonder why you ever thought the gardening season ended in August. Let's keep going. Choy. Bok choy, the vegetable that loves the change of seasons. Some vegetables struggle when the weather begins to change. Bok choy does exactly the opposite. It almost seems to breathe a sigh of relief as the intense heat of summer begins to fade. That's one reason experienced gardeners often wait until August before planting it. Earlier in the season, hot temperatures can cause bok choy to bolt almost overnight. Instead of producing those thick, crisp stems and tender green leaves, the plant rushes into flowering, leaving you with a disappointing harvest, planted in late summer. However, and you'll see a completely different side of this remarkable vegetable. Within 35 to 45 days, compact heads begin forming, their bright white stems supporting glossy green leaves that look as beautiful in the garden as they do on the dinner table. Bok choy appreciates rich, well-drained soil and consistent moisture, especially while young plants are getting established. One simple layer of organic mulch helps keep the roots cool while reducing how often you'll need to water. Here's a small harvesting trick that many home gardeners overlook. You don't always have to harvest the entire plant. If you remove only the larger outer leaves, many varieties will continue producing fresh growth from the center, giving you several harvests instead of just one. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes the garden gives more when we take a little less. From crisp greens, let's move to something that brings a completely different kind of satisfaction. Few things feel more rewarding than walking into the garden with an empty basket and coming back with it full of fresh beans. Sure, Bush beans, a second chance for fresh green beans. Many gardeners think bean season ends sometime in early summer. Fortunately, bush beans never received that memo. Because they mature so quickly, usually in 45 to 55 days, they're one of the easiest vegetables to fit into the final stretch of the growing season. If your first crop has already finished producing, August offers a perfect opportunity to enjoy one more harvest before fall arrives. Unlike pole beans, bush beans don't spend weeks climbing trellises. They stay compact, making them ideal for raised beds, traditional garden, or even larger containers. Plant the seeds directly into warm soil in a location that receives plenty of sunshine. The soil still holds enough warmth to encourage fast germination, while the gradually cooling air helps reduce stress on the young plants. One mistake that catches many beginners by surprise is harvesting too late. Beans are at their sweetest and most tender, while the pods are still smooth and slender. Wait too long, and the seeds inside begin swelling, leaving the pods tougher than they need to be. Experienced gardeners have a simple habit. They harvest often. Every time you pick mature beans, the plant responds by producing more flowers and more pods. It's nature's way of rewarding consistency. And there are few sights more satisfying than seeing a healthy bush bean plant covered with blossoms. Knowing that another basket of fresh vegetables is only days away. Not every productive vegetable demands much space. In fact, our next crop proves that some of the smallest plants in the garden can become some of the most useful. Green onions. The harvest that keeps coming back. Green onions rarely become the star of a gardening video, but they quietly become one of the most used vegetables in almost every kitchen. They're the finishing touch on baked potatoes, the fresh flavor in homemade soups, the bright green garnish that somehow makes an ordinary meal feel just a little more special, and they ask for very little in return. Most green onions are ready in 30 to 50 days, making them one of the simplest August plantings you'll ever grow. Because they take up so little space, they're perfect for filling those awkward gaps between larger vegetables or lining the edges of raised beds. One of the best things about green onions is that they teach you to harvest differently. Instead of pulling the whole plant, simply snip the green tops whenever you need them. Leave the white base in the ground. And before long, fresh leaves begin growing again. It's a small habit that turns one planting into multiple harvests. Keep the soil evenly moist during dry weather, and they'll continue rewarding you long after many summer crops have called it a season. Sometimes, the most valuable vegetables aren't the ones that take center stage. They're the ones you find yourself harvesting again and again without even thinking about it. Our next vegetable offers something almost no other crop on today's list can match: one seed. Two completely different harvests. Beets twice, the harvest from one plant. There's something quietly satisfying about growing beets. Maybe it's the surprise of pulling a perfectly formed root from beneath the soil. Or maybe it's knowing that you never had to wait for the roots before enjoying the plant. Because with beets, the harvest actually begins long before the bulbs are ready. Their young leaves are tender, nutritious, and delicious, giving you fresh greens, while the roots continue developing below. By the time the bulbs are ready, usually in about 50 to 60 days, you've already enjoyed weeks of harvest. August planting brings out the very best in beets. As temperatures gradually cool, the roots develop deeper color, smoother texture, and a sweeter flavor that's difficult to achieve during the hottest part of summer. Preparing the soil is worth the extra effort. Loose, stone-free soil allows the roots to grow straight and evenly, while compost provides the steady nutrition they need throughout the season. One detail many beginners don't realize is that a single beet seed often produces more than one seedling. After germination, Thinning isn't optional, it's essential. Giving each plant enough room allows every root to reach its full potential, and when harvest day finally arrives, you'll understand why patient gardeners look forward to fall beets every single year. Pull one from the soil. Brush away the loose earth. And you'll be holding one of autumn's simplest rewards, grown from a seed, no larger than a pebble. By now, your late summer garden is beginning to take shape. Fresh greens are filling empty beds. Young roots are quietly growing beneath the soil. Another harvest is already on its way, but the next chapter introduces vegetables that many gardeners consider the true champions of fall. They're tougher, sweeter after cool weather. And once they're established, they'll keep rewarding you long after many other crops have disappeared from the garden. Let's keep growing. If you've ever wondered why experienced gardeners get excited when the weather forecast starts showing cool nights instead of scorching afternoons, this next group of vegetables is the answer. Unlike tomatoes or peppers that begin slowing down as temperatures fall, these crops seem to come alive. A light frost doesn't ruin them. In many cases, it actually improves them. Some become sweeter. Others grow more tender. And all four have earned a permanent place in countless fall gardens across America. Let's start with one of the most underrated root vegetables you'll ever grow. Tatsoi. Turnips, the forgotten fall. Favorite turnips don't usually receive much attention. They're rarely the first vegetable people think about when planning a garden, yet every autumn they quietly prove why they've been grown for generations. Part of their charm is their simplicity. They're reliable. They're forgiving. And they make excellent use of garden space that's suddenly available after summer crops finish. Most varieties mature in 45 to 60 days, making August the perfect time to sow a final crop before colder weather settles in. What many new gardeners don't realize is that you're really growing two vegetables at once, long before the roots are ready. The leafy tops can already be harvested for soups, sauté, or fresh salads. Meanwhile, beneath the soil, the round white and purple roots continue developing at their own steady pace. Cool weather changes them in the best possible way. Instead of becoming strong or woody, turnips grown for a fall harvest are often noticeably sweeter and more tender. Preparing the bed takes only a few extra minutes, but it makes a remarkable difference. Loosen the soil deeply. Remove stones. And work in a little compost before planting. Once seedlings emerge, thin them without hesitation. Crowded turnips spend their energy competing instead of growing. Give each plant enough room, and nature does the rest. Experienced gardeners often say that turnips teach patience in the gentlest possible way. Nothing seems to happen for weeks. Then, one cool morning, you pull back the leaves and discover smooth, healthy roots waiting just beneath the surface, while turnips quietly develop underground. Our next vegetable has been winning gardeners over for centuries. And every autumn, it reminds us that sometimes the sweetest rewards come to those who are willing to wait. Carrots. Why fall carrots taste better? There's a reason seasoned gardeners become almost protective of their fall carrots. Ask them which harvest tastes best, and many won't even hesitate. It's the autumn crop. Not because carrots grow faster, not because they're larger, but because they taste completely different. As cool nights arrive, carrot roots naturally store more sugars to protect themselves from the cold. That simple survival response creates one of gardening's greatest rewards, a carrot that's noticeably sweeter, crisper, and richer in flavor than one harvested during midsummer. It's one of those small miracles nature performs every year. Most carrot varieties need 55 to 70 days to mature, making August an ideal planting month across much of the United States. Their tiny seeds ask for only one thing in return: consistent moisture. If the surface dries out during germination, many seeds simply refuse to sprout. Some experienced gardeners gently cover newly planted rows with a piece of burlap or a wooden board for several days. It helps trap moisture until the seedlings begin emerging. It's an old gardening trick that's still passed from one generation to the next. Once the seedlings appear, don't skip thinning. It can feel wasteful at first. But crowded carrots rarely become beautiful carrots. Every seedling you remove gives another root the room it needs to grow straight and strong. Then comes the hardest part: waiting. Resist the temptation to harvest too early. Give the roots time to mature. And if your area receives a light frost, leave them in the ground just a little longer. When you finally pull your first carrot on a cool October morning, brush away the soil and take that first crisp bite. You'll understand why gardeners look forward to this harvest every single year. Not every fall vegetable grows beneath the soil. Some simply keep giving, week after week, asking only that you come back with a basket and a pair of garden scissors. Woo! Swiss chard, the gift that keeps growing. Every garden has one vegetable that quietly outperforms expectations. Swiss chard is often that vegetable. It doesn't demand constant attention. It doesn't mind changing weather. And once it gets established, it seems determined to keep producing. Many gardeners plant it once, then spend the rest of the season wondering why they didn't grow more. Most varieties are ready for their first harvest in about 50 to 60 days. But that's really just the beginning. Swiss chard follows what gardeners lovingly call the cut-and-come-again approach. Harvest the larger outer leaves, leave the center untouched. A week later, fresh leaves appear as though the plant has quietly reset itself. That cycle can continue for months. The colorful stems, whether bright red, golden yellow, or vibrant pink, bring unexpected beauty to the vegetable garden. While the dark green leaves are packed with flavor and nutrition, it's equally happy in raised beds, traditional rows, or large containers. One simple habit makes all the difference: never strip the entire plant, as long as the growing center remains healthy. Swiss chard keeps rewarding you with another harvest. Sometimes, gardening isn't about getting everything all at once. Sometimes it's about learning that taking a little consistently gives you far more in the end. Our next vegetable has become almost synonymous with fall gardening. In fact, many gardeners intentionally delay planting it because they know cooler weather will bring out its very best. See, kale, the king of the fall garden. Few vegetables represent autumn quite like kale. Walk through a thriving fall garden, and chances are you'll find sturdy kale plants standing proudly long after many summer crops have disappeared. They're resilient, they're productive, and they're remarkably generous. But what makes kale truly special isn't just its ability to tolerate cold. It's what the cold does for the flavor. As nighttime temperatures begin to drop, kale responds by converting more of its stored starches into natural sugars. The leaves become noticeably sweeter, softer, and far less bitter than they were during the heat of summer. It's one of nature's most delicious transformations. Most varieties reach maturity in about 50 to 65 days, though you'll likely begin harvesting baby leaves much sooner. Give each plant rich soil, regular watering, and enough room for good air circulation. After that, kale asks for surprisingly little. Harvest from the bottom first, taking the oldest leaves while allowing the growing tip to remain untouched. The plant simply keeps reaching upward, producing fresh leaves as the weeks go by. Many gardeners are still harvesting kale after the first frost. Some continue well into winter. That's why kale earns its reputation as one of the most dependable vegetables you can grow. When the rest of the garden begins slowing down, kale is often just getting started. By now, your fall garden is no longer just an idea. It's becoming a living calendar of harvests. Tender greens, sweet roots, colorful leaves, and vegetables that seem to improve with every cool night. But we're not finished yet. The final chapter features 3 more outstanding vegetables, a handful of simple August planting tips that can dramatically improve your success, and one final reminder that could completely change the way you think about gardening seasons. Let's finish strong. If you've stayed with me this far, you've probably noticed something interesting. A fall garden isn't built around one perfect vegetable. It's built around variety. Some crops give you quick harvests. Others reward your patience. Some fill your salad bowl, while others quietly mature beneath the soil, waiting for the perfect autumn day. Our final 3 vegetables complete that picture beautifully. Let's begin with one that's been quietly earning a place in more and more home garden. Sen. Mustard greens fast. Flavorful and full of character. Every garden deserves at least one vegetable with a little personality. Mustard greens certainly have plenty of it. They're bold. Peppery flavor isn't for everyone at first, but once you learn how to use them, they quickly become one of those vegetables you look forward to growing every year. One reason they're so well suited for August planting is their remarkable speed. Many varieties are ready to harvest in just 35 to 45 days, making them one of the quickest leafy greens you'll grow before fall arrives. Like many cool season crops, mustard greens become noticeably milder as temperatures begin to drop. The leaves stay more tender, and their sharp bite softens into a rich, earthy flavor that's perfect for soups, stir-fries, or simply sautéed with a little olive oil and garlic. They're also wonderfully forgiving. Plant the seeds directly into fertile, well-drained soil. Keep the bed consistently moist during germination. And before long, you'll have a thick patch of vibrant green leaves ready to harvest. The secret isn't waiting for the plant to become enormous. Instead, harvest young outer leaves regularly while allowing the center to continue growing. The plant responds by producing even more fresh foliage. It's a simple rhythm that turns one sowing into weeks of harvests. Sometimes gardening isn't about growing the biggest vegetables. Sometimes it's about growing the vegetables you'll actually use every week. Our next vegetable is still unfamiliar to many backyard gardeners, but once you grow it, there's a good chance it will become part of your fall garden every single year. Tatsoi, the quiet star of the cool season. At first glance, tatsoi doesn't demand attention. It grows close to the ground, forming neat rosettes of glossy green leaves that almost seem too perfect to be real. But don't let its quiet appearance fool you. Tatsoi is one of the toughest leafy greens you can plant. While other vegetables begin slowing as temperatures fall, tatsoi remains surprisingly productive, often continuing well after the first chilly mornings arrive. Most varieties reach maturity in about 40 to 50 days. Although baby leaves can be harvested much earlier, the flavor is gentle and remarkably versatile. Imagine something halfway between spinach and bok choy, mild enough for salads, yet sturdy enough for soups and stir-fries. It's an ideal vegetable for gardeners who enjoy harvesting a little at a time rather than removing the entire plant. Snip the larger outer leaves and let the center continue producing. Within days, fresh growth appears, quietly extending your harvest. Tatsoi also performs beautifully in containers, making it a wonderful choice for patios, balconies, or any garden where space is limited. Some vegetables ask for constant attention. Tatsoi simply asks you to come back with a basket every few days. And now we've arrived at the final vegetable on today's list. If there were one crop that captures everything wonderful about fall gardening beauty, resilience, productivity, and incredible flavor, it would be this one. Collard greens, the garden that refuses to quit. Collard greens don't rush. They don't need to. Their strength has always been endurance. While many vegetables are beginning to fade as autumn settles in, collards seem to become more confident with every passing week. That's exactly why so many southern gardeners have relied on them for generations. Plant them in August, and they'll reward you with a harvest that often stretches well beyond the first frost. In many regions, they'll continue producing deep into winter. Like kale, collards respond beautifully to cooler temperatures. The leaves become sweeter, more tender, and far more enjoyable after a few chilly nights. Each harvest seems just a little better than the last. Collards appreciate fertile soil enriched with compost, steady moisture while establishing their roots, and plenty of sunshine. Once they're settled in, they're surprisingly resilient. Harvest the oldest leaves from the bottom first, allowing the growing tip to remain untouched. Week after week, the plant simply continues producing fresh foliage. It's a quiet lesson in consistency. Good gardens rarely succeed because of one extraordinary day. They succeed because of many small moments of care, repeated over time. And perhaps no vegetable reflects that better than collard greens. 5 simple tips for a bigger fall harvest. Before you head outside with your seed packets, here are 5 habits that can make every August planting more successful. First, know your first frost date. Every planting decision becomes easier once you know how many growing days you have left. A quick check of your local frost calendar can help you choose vegetables with confidence instead of guessing. Second, improve the soil before planting. Summer crops remove a surprising amount of nutrients. Adding fresh compost before sowing new seeds gives young plants exactly what they need for a strong start. Healthy soil almost always produces healthier vegetables. Third, water deeply and consistently. Late summer sunshine can still dry the soil quickly. Instead of watering a little every day, give your garden a thorough soaking whenever the top inch of soil begins to dry. Deep roots create stronger plants. Fourth, mulch whenever possible. A light layer of straw, shredded leaves, or untreated wood chips helps retain moisture, keeps soil temperatures more stable, and reduces weeds, all while requiring very little effort. It's one of the simplest improvements any gardener can make. Finally, plant a little every week, rather than sowing every seed in a single afternoon. Stagger your planting over 2 or 3 weeks. This simple practice, known as succession planting, creates a steady stream of fresh vegetables instead of one overwhelming harvest. Experienced gardeners know that consistency almost always beats urgency. Every year, as August comes to an end, thousands of gardens begin to empty. Beds are cleared, tools are put away, seed packets are tucked back onto the shelf until spring. But they don't have to be. Some of the sweetest carrots you'll ever taste, some of the crispest lettuce you'll ever harvest, some of the most productive greens you'll ever grow, all begin with seeds planted when many people think the season is already over. That's one of the quiet joys of gardening. Nature is always offering another chance to grow something beautiful if we're willing to notice it. So before summer slips away, take another look at those empty spaces in your garden. Instead of seeing what is finished, imagine what could still begin. A few packets of seeds, a little time, a few cool autumn mornings waiting just around the corner. And before long, You'll find yourself carrying another basket of fresh vegetables back to the kitchen, proof that one of the best harvests of the year wasn't planted in spring at all. It was planted in August. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd love to know what you're planning to grow this month. Leave a comment below and tell us which vegetable you're most excited to plant or share where you're gardening from. It's always inspiring to see how many different climates and communities come together through a shared love of gardening. And if you'd like more practical gardening guides, seasonal planting tips, and simple ways to grow more food at home, be sure to subscribe to Easy Garden. Until next time, take care of your garden, and it will take care of you. Happy gardening!